So my name is Liz McDaniel, and I first came to Mary's Place in 2008. And I came as an intern through the Mission Intern Program through the United Methodist Church. And they had placed me there for 18 months to serve as the volunteer coordinator and to work at the Women's Day Center. And so during my time as the mission intern, I helped start the volunteer program and started serving some of the first families that came into the day center at the time. When my internship ended in 2009, I joined the team full time, and I was the first staffed volunteer coordinator as well as one of the managers for the day center.
Great. Do you have a favorite memory of Mary's Place?
Yes, there's a lot. Most of my favorite memories of Mary's Place revolve around times that there was relationship building with the women from the day center or the families that we were serving. One example is we had a mom who had been coming to our day center for a number of years. And when she found out she was pregnant, asked the staff if they would be her point of contact when she went into the hospital for delivery. And so I was the one that received the phone call. It was like 1:30 in the morning when she went into labor. And that was who she wanted there. She wanted her Mary's Place family there when her baby was born. So I got to be there and be the first person beyond her to hold her sweet little baby and help bring her home from the hospital. And at the time, she was staying in one of our shelters. And so making sure that she had a safe place to go and that she was able to take her baby home with her when she left the hospital was really monumental for her and really impactful for myself. And then was able to see that baby grow up. You know, she can continue to come back and check in at Mary's Place over the years and send updates. And so to see her thriving as a mom and as a family is really just incredible.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What impact did you see Mary's Place have in the community?
I think Mary's Place impact in the community is broad and deep. They started back in 1999 as a day center for single women that were needing a safe place to be during the day. So they were kind of a one-stop shop for women experiencing homelessness who needed everything from a shower to a hot meal to a sense of community in a place where they felt like they belonged. And that was one of the first vital roles that they served within the community, was creating this place and this sense of safety for people who didn't have that or felt like they didn't have that. And so there was belonging, they knew they were wanted and that they were beloved, and that was really important. As Mary's Place grew and kind of evolved with the changing scene of homelessness in King County, we started seeing families experiencing homelessness for the first time in numbers that the county and the city couldn't respond to alone. And so the Mary's Place community stood up together and started serving families first through a hotel voucher program, but over time that evolved into shelter. And it was because we had this incredibly strong sense of community that we could call on our donors and our volunteers to participate in that work together, that family sleeping outside was never the fault of the family. It was this ideal around the community can do better, and the community participates in helping get this family off the streets and into their own home. And so that's what we saw from the very beginning. Our very first shelter that we opened was in partnership with 14 faith congregations, temples and churches that opened up their spaces for families to have a safe place to stay at night. And we named that the rotating shelter, and that ran for 9 years, creating a sense of safety and belonging for families while they were getting back on their feet, and was really kind of the baseline for how we built every program from there on out. It was centered around, how does the community do this together?
Mm-hmm. So you spoke a little about this in your last answer there, but how have you seen the organization change and grow over your time working with them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that I think Mary's Place has done really well, is they evolve with the need in the community. We started serving single adult women. We started seeing the family homelessness crisis in 2009, 2010. We responded by creating the first rotating shelter. But over time, as we opened new family shelters across the city and across the county, it was recognizing what the need was and hearing from the families in the community directly what their need was. It wasn't just single moms, it was single dads. It wasn't just single parents, it was two-parent families. It was parents who had grandparents, multi-generational families that were being turned away everywhere else they went. Families that wanted to bring their pets in. Nobody wants to leave their dog or their cat just because they have found themselves in a tough situation. And so being able to evolve and respond to those needs as they came up from the community was really important. And Mary's Place had always been kind of in the center of the city of Seattle and downtown Seattle. But as the family shelter grew, one of the other interesting ways that it grew was that it grew across the county, and it tried to recognize where families were coming from so that they didn't have to leave their community, their schools, their churches, their places of worship, so that they could just find shelter. So we instead brought the shelter to their community. So it was growing that Mary's Place community, but also keeping families where they belonged.
Hmm. Can you think of one event or a specific time period that you think is particularly important to the history of the organization?
That's a tough one because there's a lot. When I think about Mary's Place events that were important, I think about the celebrations that we had. There were, we always used to say when I was there that there was nothing too small or too big to celebrate. And so we had birthday parties for everybody that we could, celebrated every holiday that was possible. But one of the big community-wide celebrations that we had was Holly Jolly. And that was this opportunity for families and for the women from the day center to come in and just have a holiday party, to get an invitation to a party that they often didn't get during the holidays because they didn't have an address. And so creating a space where they could get a home cooked hot meal that felt warm and comforting to them, that they had the opportunity to pick out gifts for their kids and their grandkids, that their grandkids and kids had opportunity to pick out gifts for them, and that it was really just about the joy of the season. And that was such an incredible partnership with our families and our women who would plan the party with us, but then also the amazing amount of volunteers that would come in and help host the day. And I think at its largest, we had, 500 to 600 volunteers, over 1,500 guests attending, and each leaving feeling like this was a party set aside for me. And that was really fun to do. So I think those types of events, again, it goes back to that sense of community and belonging, which is, I think, at its best, what Mary's Place does.
Hmm. When you think about the future of Mary's Place, what do you want that to look like?
To me, it always goes back to that sense of community and sense of belonging. So staying ever present to the relationship with the guests that we're serving, hearing from them directly. In my time with Mary's Place, I was there for 13 years, and every program that we started was a direct result of a story or a need from a family or a single woman that we heard. And it wasn't us trying to be creative and come up with new solutions. It was responding to the need that we heard. And so I think that's what's going to drive the future growth of Mary's Place in a sustainable way, is that when you're responding to the need and you're in relationship with people, then that's what's the right thing.
Hmm. Great. Well, that was my final question today. But if there is anything else you want to share about your history with the organization, um, feel free to.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of a hard open-ended question. Yeah, I mean, from my time there, really was a fascinating journey, because when I started, I was staff member number 7.
Mhm.
And when I left, the organization had over 250 staff members. And I think one of the really unique things about my time at Mary's Place was that the relationship that we had with our guests and then with our community was something that we tried and worked really hard to build into our staff as well. So I would just encourage the organization to continue to build in that sense of community amongst your staff and your team as much as possible, because we come at this work for all the same reasons, because we love and want to serve our community. And so honor that within your team as well, I think is really important. And that's what kept me and the work for so long. And then just be open to feedback from your staff, from your guests, from your community, from your donors, because you never know where that's going to take you. And sometimes that takes you in really interesting places.
Mhm. Great. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and sharing your experiences and your memories with me. And thank you so much for helping out with this project.